Welcome back everybody for the next video in our series on making a Brick Breaker game. In this video we're going to be adding a start menu to our game. So I'm going to jump right in here. So what we're going to want to do this time is we're going to make a brand new scene that's going to hold our start menu. And then when we've hit play the game in that menu, it will load up the scene that we've been working here with our bricks in it and actually start the game. So we're going to make a new scene. To make a new scene, you go up to File and then you say New Scene, or you can use Control N, the keyboard shortcuts. So when I do that, you notice that I now have in my hierarchy just the camera. Everything's back to default. My old scene is still right here. So that's the scene file, what it looks like. And when you make a new scene, usually the first thing you should do is go ahead and save that scene so you don't lose any changes as you're setting it up. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to say Save Scene, and then I'm going to just give it a name. And when you save a scene, make sure you don't change the folder. It has to be in the Asset folder here. So just give it a name. So this is going to be my Start Menu, and I'll just hit Save on that. And if you go down to the Assets folder here now, you'll see Start Menu shows up there as well as Main. And to switch back and forth, you can just double click the one you want. So to go back to my main scene, if I double click it, here I am back in my main game scene. And to go back to Start Menu, I can just double click it to go back. So first thing, let's kind of set our camera up here. Mainly we're just going to be doing some UI in this scene, but let's set the background here to black, so it matches our game. So we'll do that. And then we're going to add a canvas. So we're going to go here to our hierarchy, UI, canvas. And again, remember, canvas always draws really big off to the side here. So let's scroll out so we can see it. There it is. And again, we're using a screen space overlay canvas here, so we'll just overlay whatever space our camera is showing. So don't let the big square off to the side fool you. It's actually going to scale itself to match our actual camera view. So we're going to need a title in here, so let's right click our canvas, go to UI, let's add a text. We'll go ahead and drag that text up to the top here where we want our title to be. Let's make this nice and big so we have lots of room. I always like to center it on the X, so I can just zero out the X here, and that'll make sure it's centered right along our screen center. Let's give this a name here. This is going to be our title text, and let's type in, this is going to be our Brick Breaker. And we can't really see that text yet because it's really small, so we'll center it. Let's go ahead and zoom the font size up nice and big, maybe something about like a 120, and then we can change our color. So let's maybe go with yellow for now. Alright, so there's our title text. So next we're going to need some buttons that are going to allow us to start the game or exit the game. And then we might even look at doing some options in a future video. But let's go back to our canvas, right click it, UI, let's make a button. And let's kind of make these a little bit bigger because we got lots of space. So here's our button. Let's make this our start button. So I'm just going to rename that up there in the hierarchy to start button. Let's change this button's color to something besides white. So let's see, we're going with kind of some yellow, so maybe we'll pick some sort of a yellow color here for our button. Then we're going to open the button up to get to the text that's being displayed on the button, and we want this to say Start Game. And we can make that a little bit bigger, and we can mess with the color there. Maybe let's just take it down into black so it really kind of stands out. It's got a little more contrast. We could also go in here and bold it. There we go. So that's going to be our Start Game button. And since we have that and we want another button just like it, let's duplicate it. So we'll click it up here in the hierarchy, right click it, duplicate. Now I have a start button and a start button number 1. I can just drag the new one off, put it over here somewhere, off to the side. Of course, we don't want this to be called start button. We want this to be our quit button. So we'll rename that so we can keep track of it. And then again, let's open it up, go to its text that's being displayed. Let's change this to quit game. And our buttons are all set up as far as the visual part of the button. So now we just need to tie these in so that when we click them, they will do what we want them to do. So the quit game button is going to, of course, quit our game, and the start game button is going to load our main scene down here. So let's make a script, because for this to work we have to have the button called a script that's attached to an object in our game. So we're just going to make a new script here. So I'm going to do this in my scripts folder here. We'll create a new C#. We'll call this our start menu script. I'm going to attach this to my camera this time. A lot of times if we're just doing menus and there's not much going on in here, you can just hang a script on a camera. That's not a bad spot to put it. So we now have that set up, and we'll open that script up in MonoDevelop. So we're going to need a couple of functions here, so I'm just going to get rid of the default ones, and we're going to put in a void quit game function. And since we're calling these from a button click, we need to make sure they're public so that they can be called from outside the script. So we've got quit game, and quit game is just going to exit the window the game's running in. So we're just going to use the application.quit command, and again, this one here will just close the window the game is playing in. It won't work in the editor. So when we test this out later, it won't work in the editor, but a lot of times what we'll do just to test to make sure it's actually going here to this function is we can do a debug.log statement, and we can just have it say something like quit button pushed, so that at least we have some sort of indicator that this is hooked up correctly. Alright, that's our quit game function. We're also going to need one for starting our game. So we're going to do public void, call this start game. And what we need to do here now is to load it. So we did this once before. If you remember, in our game manager over here, we have a play again, and what we did is we used this command right here, scene manager load scene main. This is the exact same command that we want to use out in our start menu. So we can just copy and paste that in. The other piece that we need is up at the top. To do scene management, we actually have to import the using Unity Engine scene management command. So we're going to add both of those. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one down here. Since it's going to be the same command, that'll save me a little typing. We'll go back to our start menu. Let's go ahead and paste that in. Now I notice it didn't like what I did here, because again, we have to go up here and tell it that we want to do scene management kind of things. So I have to say using Unity Engine, and then we have to say dot scene management, and now it will be happy. Alright. So now we have it set up to where it will quit the game if we hit the quit button, and it will start the game if we click the start button. Let's save the script, and let's go back out here into Unity. Now, one more thing we're going to want to do here before we test this out is we're going to go to our build settings. So File, Build Settings, and right now the only scene we have in our build is the main scene. We are going to want to be able to get back out here to our menu scene here, so let's add that to our add to our scene. So since this is the one that's open, I can click Add Open Scenes, and there it is. Now the other thing you need to know is that when this game is built out into its standalone and somebody launches it, it's going to load the first scene in the list when the game launches. So we don't want it to load main first, we want it to load start menu. So I'm going to grab start menu and just drag it to the top. And now start menu is first, and when the game is built and run, it'll automatically start here at our start menu screen. Okay, now that we have all that set up, we need to actually tell the buttons to run those functions. So I'm going to go to my start game button, and we're going to go to the on click area here so that we can tell it what to do when it is clicked. We're going to hit plus to add an event, and now we have to point it at our start game function. That function is in the start game script, which is on my camera. So I have to give it the camera. So I'm giving it a little roadmap here to get to the function I want it to run. So go to the camera, go to the start menu script, go to start game. So now when I click this button, it will run start game. I'm going to go back to my quit button here, do the same thing. I'm going to add an on click event. I'm going to give it the camera. I'm going to give it the script on the camera and then the quit game function. So those are all tied in. Alright, so let's test it out now that the buttons are hooked up. When I click the quit game button here, I should get a message in the console. There it is, quit button push. So that tells me that it is going to that function. Again, application.quit command will not execute in the editor here. And if I hit quit game or start game, I should get the game to load up. And there it is, and the game's loaded up, and we can play it. We can play it in here just fine. Alright, so that has got the basics of our menu. Now that we have this menu, let's make a change out in our main scene here. So let's go to our main scene. When I go to switch, if I haven't saved changes to this scene, it'll give me this box here. So don't forget to save because you'll lose your work. And out here now, when the game is over, let's go over to our game over panel here and turn it on so we can see it. When the game is over, when we hit play again, we'll just go ahead and reload this scene right here at the beginning and let it start again. But when we hit quit, let's go back out to the main menu. So when we hit quit, we'll go back to the main menu. Then they can look at whatever we have out there, and then they can exit the game fully from that menu as well. That way we can park other things out in that menu eventually if you want to. So let's make a change there. So we're going to go to our quit button. Right now it's calling GameManager.quit, which is in the Game Manager script. So let's modify that. In the Game Manager script, here's quit. So instead of application.quit, let's actually just load in the start menu. So I'm just going to do scene manager, load scene, and the scene I want is my start menu. So here I called it start menu with a space in between, so got to type it in exact as I saved it in my scenes there. And now what it'll do instead of quitting is it'll go back out, and then I don't need this debug.log anymore because I'm not actually quitting, and I will see it actually load this menu. So if they play again, we'll just reload the main scene, start the game over. If they quit, we'll go back out to the start menu. So we're going to save that change, and we'll go out here into Unity. We'll turn our game over panel off. We'll go ahead and play our game and run out of lives right away. And let's see here. And now when it pops up, if I hit quit, it loads me out here to my Brick Breaker main menu screen, where I can then decide to start again, or I can quit, and that will close down the application fully. So that's the simple start of our menu. Let's add a little more in here. Let's put some instructions in here for the game so that the player kind of knows what he's getting into. We could either just display them right here on the main menu, or we could make a button that opens up a panel. Let's just do some text in here for now. So I'm going to get out of play mode here. So let's go back to our main menu here. So let's double click start menu, and again we made a change here, so let's save it. And then let's add in a box here for instructions. So I'm going to go to my canvas, I'm going to right click it, I want a UI text. Let's drag that down in here a little bit, and let's make some room for some instructions. So we'll do something like this perhaps, zero it on the X there. The other thing let's do is I don't think I checked my anchor points when I set these up, so let's check those real quick. Yeah, we always want to remember to set good anchor points, so if our game gets played in a resolution that's not our default one, our UI won't break. So right now this is set to the center, so again, to change those you can go to the anchor presets. I'll make the title text be top center. And then these can stay to the center, that's fine. And these instructions, let's have these anchored to the bottom of the screen in the center. All right. And then let's make our text here a little bigger. And let's type in some placeholder text. We can also change some color here. So it seems like we're kind of sticking with some kind of yellowish text here. We can maybe just make that bright yellow for now. Okay, so we can make this say instructions, or maybe we'll say how to play. How to play. And then we can just kind of type all this out. We don't really need to change this at all during gameplay, so we can just kind of make it how we want. We can do, we can say left and right arrow to move, space bar to fire. We'll say space bar to launch. Let's spell launch correctly here. Launch ball. Okay, and then maybe we'll go down a couple lines, say break all the bricks. Oh, I went off the bottom of my text box here. You notice when I went down here too and it's not showing up there, so I just got to drag this down a little bit more so I have a little more room. Break all the bricks to go to the next level. And again, when I got off the edge of my box here, we lost some of it, so let's just make our box a little bit wider here. And I might just have to make that into 2 lines. There we go, I made it fit. So we can see how we like that. We might actually want to put another line right here after how to play, space that out a little bit. Again, you just kind of play with this to make enough room and arrange things so you've got them where you want them to be. So you can move those up a bit so I can get a little more space here. Alright, so we can do something like this. I think I'm going to capitalize that L there for left so that it looks a little better. Okay, and you can make your instructions however detailed or not that you want. Generally it's a good idea to at least tell them what the different keys are so they know how to play the game, and you might want to give them a bit of an objective, like their win condition is break all the bricks to go to the next level. Okay, we're going to save that. So that is some instructions, and since we're keeping a high score, we could display the high score on this screen as well. So maybe we'll do that just for fun so that they can see who the high score is. So I think I'm going to even do a little more rearranging here. So let's make this font a little smaller. So let's go down to maybe like a 40, and then we can actually make a little more room here in our box. So let's do this because that was getting a little wide anyway. So let's zero that back out on the X. Again, you can play with this and really make it how you want. I think I want this text to not go out past the edge of my buttons there. Let's just see if we can make it a little bit. We can line it up with our button maybe. I can even bring it in a little bit more. Let's try that. Okay, we'll line it up like that. Let's go ahead and display the high score down here on the bottom. So let's make another text box here. Let's name this one first of all. This is our instructions text. And let's add another text box. So I always go back to the canvas when I add these so that I don't accidentally stick something inside of another UI element. This is going to be our high score text. Let's move that down here to the bottom, and we can make that a little bit bigger. So now that I moved this away from the bottom of the screen, the instructions text, it would make more sense to put it around the center point. So let's change it to a center anchor point. This new text box I just made, let's make him have a bottom center registration point so that if we change screen resolutions, he doesn't get slid off the edge of the screen. And let's format this text here. So let's use a different color here so that they can see that it's different. And let's make the text a little bigger. So let's zoom that up. We can make this bigger than the instructions text, or we can make it a little smaller. Make it a little smaller, maybe around a 40. I think that's actually what that text is up top. Okay, let's center this one. Let's give it maybe more of an orange kind of a color here. Let's see, let's go kind of into the orange range here. Maybe something a little brighter, something like that perhaps. And then what we want to do here is we want to display our current high score. So let's go in. Oh, look at that. I made a typo here. High scroll. I don't want that to be a high scroll. I want that to be a high score. Fix my typo. Alright, so, and let's center this here as well. Alright, so we've set up our box. It's got a name. Let's access this box from our script so that we can update the high score every time that there's a high score. It'll show it here. So we're going to go back into our script for the start menu, and we're going to need to have a link to the high score text out there on the screen. So let's make a public variable up here, and let's make this of type text. Now again, you'll notice that it didn't show up here. It doesn't know what text is. That's because we have to make sure that we tell it that we are now wanting to access UI elements from our script. So we're going to go to Unity Engine.UI, and that'll get us access to all things UI. So now text does show up in the list and it's happy. And let's call this our high score text. And then let's go get ourselves a start function here. We wiped it out before, but now we want it back. So we can just type that back in there. Oh, it auto-corrected the start game. We just want start. There we go. Public void start. And actually this doesn't have to be public. Let's just call it void start. So what we're going to want to do is go to our high score text and then get our high score person's name that they entered in, as well as their score. So those are saved in our PlayerPrefs. So let's go to the high score text, and then we're going to say .text to get to the text being displayed. We'll set that equal to we'll say high, let's put this in quotes, we'll say high score set by, and let's see here, like that, and then we'll put a space. And then let's add to that the high score we have saved in our PlayerPrefs. So we're going to say PlayerPrefs dot, we want to get a string, and the string that we want, I believe, was high score name. I'm going to double check that here. That's the key that we saved it under when we were doing high scores. And that's all we need to do there. Let's check it. So I'm going to go over to my game manager for I was doing high score before. And yeah, right here, see, we set high score name, all caps. That's the name it'll be stored under, so I got that right. Okay, and then to the end of that, let's add in a space. And then we can just add on to the end of that the number of points. So we're going to get that also from our PlayerPrefs. So we're going to go to PlayerPrefs. This time we want to get an integer value that we saved, and this one was high score, I believe. So we'll double check that as well. Into our game manager script, we saved the high score right here under high score. There we go. So now we're going to construct a sentence here that says high score set by with a padded space. We're going to jam whatever is stored here under high score name. We'll put another space in there to give us so it doesn't jam these together. And then we're going to grab the integer value out of here and jam it onto the end of the sentence. So that would display it. Now, before we do this, we probably ought to check to see if there actually is a high score. Maybe this is the first time this game's been played on your screen, and if so, you're going to get nothing here, and it's gonna just kind of look a little strange. So let's do a check here before we display this. We'll just say if, and we'll say PlayerPrefs dot get string, and the string we want is our high score name. Okay, if that is not equal to, okay, and remember exclamation point means not, so if I want to ask if something's not equal, I say exclamation point equal signs, and then I'm going to say quote quotes, meaning that it's empty. We'll see if this actually works here. We could say null as well. So we'll check that and see. So if that's not equal to quote quotes, then we'll put a set of curly brackets around this one here, and then we'll show it. If it is equal to quote quotes, which means this string is empty, it hasn't ever had something saved to it yet, then it will skip this. Okay, now that we have our high score text set up out here and we're referencing it here in our script, before we can actually have this work, we have to assign this variable. So we're going to go out into Unity. We'll go to our camera where the script is. We have to now tell it where the high score text is. So we will do that. We will drop that in, and now it's all ready to have information set to it. Okay, let's go test this. I've actually gone out and cleared out my previous PlayerPrefs from here so that they should be empty. Let's just make sure this works. So when we go out here and we hit play, we see that it didn't change this text down here, right? And that's what we wanted it to do, is just ignore it. So let's actually clear this out here so it doesn't show anything in the default text, and we'll save our scene. And this is tested again. Okay, so you see nothing was printed down here, and that's because we told it that if high score name was not equal to quote quotes, to do this. Since it is equal to quote quotes, there's nothing there, then it didn't. So okay, let's go out here and test to see if when we start the game, I cleared out the PlayerPrefs just a moment ago off camera here, so that it should be empty and we shouldn't get any text. We'll go out and just get a few points, set a new high score, come back and see if it actually loads up that high score. So when I start the game here, there is no text being displayed. I'll go ahead and start. Alright, and you can see when I did that and then came back out here, now that there is a text there, it says that high score set by test, and it's 3. So we might want to, maybe we don't need set by, maybe we just need high score test and then 3, and we could put points on the end, or we could just put 3 there. So that reads a little bit strange, but you see that it's working here. And that way, if it's the first time the game's been played and there's not a high score, it won't try to put text here that won't have all the pieces filled in. Okay, let's maybe do one more thing on our menu here. There's a lot that we could do. It might be nice to have a little bit of music going on here when this loads up, so we could actually have it load in a different track, or we could use the same track that we had before. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just add in an audio source to my camera here. Let's go ahead and give it the same audio clip that I was using before. I think it was this combat clip here. And or we could do a different one. Let's see what we have here. Maybe we'll do this overworld one so we have something a little different. I'm going to assign that. I'm also going to go ahead and assign this to our background music mixing group so that it kind of keeps the level the same here. I could make a new mixing group just for the start menu here, but let's go ahead and just add that to the background music mixing group. And then it's play on awake. Let's make it loop in case it sits here forever. And when I hit play here now, we should hear some music going. Alright, so now we've got some nice background music going here, and when we hit start, it fades right into the music for the level. Alright, so I think that's enough right now for our menu. We may think about coming back in here and adding some options in and all of that, but I think that's enough for today. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you're finding this useful and understandable. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and have a great day.